Hey guys, Theron Asbury here with Revital Outdoors, bringing another exciting podcast. Tonight we have Mr. Willie McMullen. Willie got a top 10 finish last year at Lake Oconee in the state of Georgia, so we're going to be interviewing another BFL Bulldog Division angler. Really excited for that. He's going to give us our predictions for this year and everything he did last year to get a top 10. So another great podcast coming your way. Before we get started, as always, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Also, check us out on Facebook and Instagram, Revital Outdoors. And then again, if you've never heard of Revital Outdoors, you're interested in our product, we're a premium CBD company for the outdoors. We make great products that are THC-free, made right here in America, and great for all the outdoor enthusiasts and all the aches and sorenesses and trouble sleeping and everything you have. So check out our website. But that being said, let's go ahead and get right to it. Very excited to go back, talk to another angler from Lake Oconee, Mr. Willie McMullen. How you doing this evening, bud?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, Willie, I appreciate you coming on board with Revital Outdoors this evening. Congratulations on your top 10 finish last year. Looked up your record on Major League Fishing. You've got a great record in the state of Georgia. So a lot of people don't talk about Lake Oconee in Georgia, but what suits it really well for you? Why do you like it? And, man, you've just always done good there.
It's, 45, 50 minutes from the entire life. It in Lake Sinclair, which is, below it. I prefer Sinclair over Oconee, but, the tournament scene is, bigger on the 90s and 2000s as it was bigger on Sinclair. So there's been a little flip flop, but, Oconee sets up good for me because I'm a shallow water fisherman. You can catch fish still out deep at Oconee, but, for me, I don't get a lot of time to practice. So, kind of got to go to my strengths and, try to cover as much water as I can. And, it's full of boat docks, it's full of natural bank, it's full of riprap. So you can pick a tactic from shallow water cranking to flipping to, specializing on fronts of boat docks or walkways on boat docks. So it gives you the chance to kind of pattern within a pattern of, running some shallow water stuff. So that's kind of, how I tend to look at Oconee for the most part.
Okay. So I want to ask you a question about these docks. I've talked to a lot of, or we have talked to a lot of BFL anglers this year, from Lake of the Ozarks to Grand Lake to down here in Florida to like Gunnersville, Chickamauga. All of those lakes, the common thing that they have and share is docks. But this is my third podcast talking about Lake Oconee, and it seems to me that docks are brought up every single time. There's a lot more consistency with the docks. So what makes the docks so special in Oconee?
Well, as Oconee's developed, it's turned into a huge housing market with, the Reynolds plantations and all that. So as some of the bigger housing, things have happened down there, a lot of the bank structure has been taken out. Seawalls got added, for erosion and whatnot, but, then docks came into place. So it's a consistent habitat for the fish. You have them in shallow pockets to out on deep main lake points to, close to flats. So they're just an area that can always hold a fish. They are post docks on Oconee. There's not any floating docks, or very few if there are any floating docks. But I think the docks have come a long ways in the fishing on Oconee because of the, housing and some of the natural bank, being taken away, and, all the boat lifts and docks for, the homeowners for recreational use of the lake.
Okay. So, well, talk to us a little bit about your tournament last year. Again, top 10 finish. What did you maybe establish in practice, and how did it just kind of carry through to a successful tournament for you?
Looking back last year, I think the weekend before I had a tournament, that was probably considered my only practice for the event. But I think we cashed a check in some buddy tournament or whatever. I don't really remember. It wasn't a high finish, but it was just an average finish. But last year, caught a quick limit really on a crankbait that maybe weighed 8 or 9 pounds. Just beating some seawalls And I had an early boat number that day last year. I think it was like boat 2 or 3. And, just kind of did that, eased the pressure of getting a check. I was going to win because I wasn't fishing the whole Bulldog division last year. So, getting a few fish in a live well, and I was like, well, it's time to upgrade. So I just picked up a jig and a beaver. I may have even had a fighting frog in the mix last year. I may have caught a fish or 2 on that, but most of the weight I weighed in came on the jig and the beaver. I got rid of like everything I caught on a crankbait, and I wish I had a later boat number last year because as the sun got up, you could kind of pick some little shady bushes and, some little, not so much collier shot, but you had a feeling when you're about to get a bite.
Right.
And, I had to weigh in early and, felt like I left fish biting and, but that's the draw. That's the way that, the ball bounced on that. So, fortunate to catch a couple of decent, 4.5 pound fish and had some more solid keepers to fill out my limit last year. There was some good weights caught last year.
Right. Yeah, I looked up the results. It seems like that the weather pattern, maybe the moon phase, whatever it may be. And I also know, is Oconee got a little bit of stain in the water, or is it clear?
Yeah, you can fish clear if you want to, or you can fish dirty if you want to. You can kind of, go north, for some stain, or you can go south and Richland Creek for clear. Richland Creek historically stays clear for the most part year round. You get some of these super flooding events and everything, it can get dirty all the way to the dam, but it takes a lot of rain for that to happen.
Absolutely. So I was looking at the results last year, so figuring out there is a little bit of dirty water on Oconee, maybe the moon phase, whatever happened. It just looking at the weights versus the boater and the co-angler, and just how it was kind of an ounces game. It seems like to me you caught those fish in the transition area, moving up, getting ready to spawn, and that's when I feel like is the best time to hit the lake. It's the best time to have a tournament, and I mean the weight showed it.
Yeah, I think last year the weather, it was actually a very pretty day that day last year, but leading up to it, the weather was pretty consistent. Kind of an old warming trend. It didn't get super warm real quick like we've just had. So I think it was just a pretty good recipe for just a lot of fish catching. I mean, Oconee's full of 2.5, 3 pound, 4 pound fish. So, once they get up on the bank, it's, not easy pickings, but they can be caught.
Okay. You said last year you were throwing a beaver, which is a creature style bait by Reaction Innovations, and throwing a jig. Just out of curiosity, we won't dive into the color if that's not too specific, but what is down here in Florida, we talk about throwing a jig in the grass. We talk about punching with the creature bait, and it's kind of hard for me to decipher when you want to throw one over the other. It's like you throw one for an hour, you pick up the jig, you get a bite. You just kind of have to pick and choose. Is that the same kind of scenario in Oconee? Like you throw one, then you throw the other, or maybe you're throwing a jig at like rock, and then you got a lot of brush, so you pick up that beaver.
For me, it's more of a confidence thing. If I'm not getting bit on a jig, once the water gets above 55 degrees, then I'm going to probably pick up some sort of plastic, whether it's a beaver, a Zoom Z-Crawl, or, fighting frog from Big Bite. So once it gets a little bit warmer, I'm going to try to explore other options than a jig. I mean, they'll bite a jig 12 months out of the year, but sometimes it seems like they've seen it so much through the winter that, it's a little different. And if you take the beaver, to me, it replaced the tube. Everybody used to throw a tube years ago. And so the way it falls and glides, it's, a little bit erratic, falling beside a dock post or, whatnot. So I think there are times where it can shine more so than, than the jig. I mean, I know last year I caught a couple fish where I skipped into a bush that it wouldn't have mattered what it was, I don't think, because the fish, I mean, it would almost bit it if it was a frog, I believe, because I mean they were hitting it, but even before it like started diving, I mean they were already up swirling on it. So they were up shallow, just getting into the shade and you know, trying to look to, start, bedding and all that kind of stuff. So,
Okay.
um,
Okay.
so
So
that's my take on the jig versus the beaver. I think,
okay.
I'll have both
So
on this weekend, but you know, we'll I'll start off with one, and if it ain't working, then we'll change it up and just see if they'll bite the other one.
that was
But
going to lead me to my very next question: is what do you predict? This year versus last year. Kind of sounds like I know you guys been getting some rain in the last few weeks. It sounds like it's going to be the same kind of pattern. You're hoping to kind of run into the same things you did last year.
it'll be the same kind of pattern. We've had a huge warm up the last couple of weeks where we've had some 80-degree days, and I fished last weekend in a team tournament on Sinclair, and it felt like the water's warmed up, but the fish didn't come along with the warm up just yet. I think the weather got ahead of the fish, so to speak. Um, it has cooled off the last couple of days. We are getting some rain. The biggest factor we're going to face Saturday is it's a huge cold front coming through. We're supposed to have like 25-mile-an-hour winds. The highs at midnight supposed to be dropping. So, I think the morning bite may be okay, but if you don't have them by lunch this go around, then the afternoon bite may not be all that great. Which historically in the spring, it's opposite. You can get good
Yeah.
later, but I think with this front coming through, that the morning bite may not be as affected as much as the afternoon bite. So, we shall see. There'll be some good bags caught, but I think it may drop off after some of those. I mean, it's just hard to skip a jig or a beaver or anything under a dock when you got white caps, and it's going to shrink the lake a little bit to everybody being in different pockets and coves and creeks and stuff like that. So the weather is probably going to, throw us a little curveball this weekend.
Okay. Okay. Besides a jig and a beaver, is there anything else you have on the deck that you have confidence in for Oconee?
Spinnerbait, chatterbait, of course, just covering water. I'm a huge crankbait fisherman. I throw one, every month of the year. So I'll probably have 3 or 4 of those tied on, just different colors, different depth ranges. Instead of having to retie, just pick up a different rod and sling it. Um, with the rains, we've got the backs of the creeks, the backs of the pockets, may or not be blown out. By Saturday, if we don't get any more, rain, they should be stable and settled out. If we get a little bit more rain, there's a forecast for some on Friday. Depending on how hard that is, that could change up some stuff. But going into this weekend, if we wouldn't have this weather swing, we've been talking about people catching on frogs, buzz baits, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I think the weather may knock those baits back, but there still may be a fish or two caught on it. There's going to be some people slinging them. So I, for one, probably won't have one tied on this week. I had one tied on last weekend, but I don't think this weekend. When you got gloves on and stocking caps and all that, I just don't see throwing a frog. But
Yeah, and unfortunately, I do have to say one thing. There's such great apparel companies in the fishing industry right now. You got Avco, you got Hook, you got Sims, but unfortunately, I hate to say it, they're never going to be able to make a warm, dry glove that's convenient for throwing a bait caster. I don't think it's ever going to happen.
no, I've had all the fingerless gloves and all that over the years. My dad used to wear them, and I wear gloves running from point A to point B, and then I'm just no gloves and just exposed skin on the hands, while I'm fishing. So
Right, right.
I can't
So
even get into the new SPF, sun gloves and all that. That I can't. It it for some reason it just feels weird to me. So
for me, and I'm going to back you up on this one. For me, they're great until you get them wet, and then they start slipping, and it's getting slimy, and it's just like, no, I might as well just take them off and take my hands and dry them. So, yeah, but anyway, well, Willie, you've given us a lot of great information on Oconee. Good luck this weekend. We hope to see you do well. We hope to have you back on this podcast because that usually means you've had a great success in 2022. But before we let you off here, we just want to give you the opportunity to thank any of your sponsors, anybody that supports you, family, friends. Like I said earlier in the podcast, you've got a great career there in the state of Georgia, especially fishing the BFL. So anybody you'd like to thank, we just want to give you that opportunity to do so.
Don't really have any sponsors per se. I kind of do it all on my own, but I do like to thank my family for, standing behind me over the years of, letting me go on the weekends to chase a little green fish and a little bit of a dream we all have. So, it means a lot to get to go on the weekends. And I'd like to thank you for asking me to be a part of the show. And like you said, I hope to give you another recap on a good weekend.
Absolutely. So, well, thank you for joining us on this podcast. Again, good luck to you this year. Good luck to all the anglers fishing the BFL Bulldog division. You've been talking to Mr. Willie McMullen. Again, last year, top 10 angler from Lake Oconee. He's given us a recap of his tournament from last year, what he predicts for this year. So, Willie, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on with us. From all of us at Revital Outdoors, thank you for tuning in to another podcast. Be sure, once again, you subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. And as always, be safe out there. God bless, and we'll see everyone on the next podcast.